What you see behind me is the second electric offering from Tata Motors in the passenger vehicle space, that is the Tigor EV. It has launched in the market starting at 11.99 lakh rupees ex-showroom. It is powered by the brand Ziptron EV technology, and it claims to have a driving range of 306 kilometers. It is also the first electric vehicle in the country to secure a 4-star rating at the global GNCAP safety rating. We'll get you our first drive impression of the Tata Tigor EV on the 8th of September. But until then, let's catch up with the president of the passenger vehicle unit of Tata Motors, Mr. Shailesh Chandra. Mr. Chandra, thank you so much for joining us on CNBC TV 18 on Overdrive today. Will the prices dip under 10 lakh rupees post the subsidies?
11.99 is the price that we have announced ex-showroom. Different state governments are giving different incentives, so very difficult to say, which state will work out to what kind of a level. But as you know that these incentives have certain qualification criteria, which is a work in progress in terms of our application and all. And post that, we'll see that whether it should reach the level that you have said. But in any case, at this price point also, this is the most affordable EV. If you typically see an automatic sedan in this category, it would be priced anywhere between 9.5 lakh to 10.5 lakh. And therefore, this falls, just 16% to 25% as a premium to those vehicles, with all the advantages of running cost, peppier drive, silent drive, and cleaner to the environment. So I think even without those subsidies, this is a very promising vehicle.
We were, however, expecting the Altroz EV to launch before the Tigor EV. Can you give us any updates?
So see, we have really defined our whole journey of the next 10 launches and the sequence in which they should be brought in. There is a logic for that sequence, and Altroz will definitely fall in that sequence at some stage. And we'll let you know when it comes closer to the launch date, but definitely it is on the cards. It is in development, under development right now, and at the right stage we'll be able to really comment on that.
All right. Can you tell me a bit about the semiconductor shortage, the issue that is happening, and where does Tata stand in all of this?
Yeah, so as we are speaking today, there are two parts to the semiconductor crisis. One is the global crisis that we have been facing for last several months. And we had kind of learned to deal with that problem because we were creating a lot of options. We were in very close coordination with the suppliers, which were tier 1 suppliers as well as the tier 2 semiconductor suppliers, and trying to see how we can balance the supply situation among between the models where we are seeing demand and less demand, etc. The other option that we were looking at was directly buying the semiconductors from the stockists. We were also looking at optimizing the use of semiconductor in certain parts. So with all these actions, we were kind of managing the situation. But the second part, which is might be a temporary one, is the situation in Malaysia, where you are heavily dependent on certain parts. And as you know, Malaysia was under lockdown also in the end of July and then in August also. Because of that, there's a certain situation in Malaysia where the manpower availability is low. There is a slightly uncertain situation there. So we are also assessing the situation, how it is going to really pan out in the next 2 months. But I just believe that this part will be temporary, and then the larger issue of semiconductor might stay for a while. It's not going to end soon. The way we have seen in the last 3-4 months, the situation has not eased out as compared to what it was before a quarter or so.
All right. And you also mentioned in your presentation that you're looking to heavily localize the powertrain components as well. So how much of that plays into all of this in the larger scheme of things, and to be self-reliant in the country?
So see, we are very committed to the electrification in India, and if you have to really make it a sustainable play, you have to localize. You have to capture the value within the country, and you have that because this is a long-term transition. You have to keep the employment also intact in the country. And to just ensure that we are in the right direction as far as localization is concerned, we are following one roadmap which has been laid down by the government of India in the FAME program, which is called the phase manufacturing program, which has clearly defined which aggregate or subsystem needs to be localized when. I think that's the path that we are following, and going forward, more and more deeper localization is what we would be working towards.
Okay. You also mentioned in your presentation about the recycling of the batteries. Anything more that you can talk about?
Not too much at this stage, but when it comes to handling the batteries, as they kind of come to the end of the life in the automotive application, we'll be looking for three directions, I would say: reuse, repurposing, and recycling. Right. And we are working on all these three streams. And there are collaboration partners with whom we are working on these topics. And once we have matured these discussions and have come to the execution and implementation of this, then we'll be able to talk more about it. But we are actively working on all these three areas.
All right, and I'll ask you one last question, because obviously charging infrastructure is one of the most important factors that people are talking about when they consider an EV adoption. Can you run us through the Tata powered charging stations in India today, and what is the plan to grow that network in the future?
So, charging infrastructure, I generally split into two parts, because one of them is slightly underplayed, which is the home charging and office charging solution. And while we have started with giving individual charging solution to the customers, but going forward, as the penetration is going to increase, you would need a society level kind of a charging solution, especially in big cities. So we are working on that also. The second part is, of course, the public charging infrastructure, which is the most talked about issue in the electric vehicle space.
Yeah.
Here also, Tata Power has been working very aggressively. Recently, they have ramped up their capacity in terms of, putting the public charging infrastructure. It's not an easy work to lease a space for putting the charging station. So this is something which Tata Power has really worked well in the last few months, I would say, and for the past 1 year they have been really working on that. Already they have installed about 600 plus fast public chargers, and they have a very aggressive plan going forward.
Mr. Chandra, thank you so much for joining us today on Overdrive, and we look forward to, in fact, driving this car. The drive start tomorrow, so we're looking forward to that as well.
It was my pleasure, and hope we'll give you a test drive soon.